Welcome to this training session. Today, we are going to dive deep into evaluating the costs and benefits of AI-powered business solutions. Let's get started. Welcome to our first slide. When evaluating AI-powered business solutions, whether they are Copilot Studio agents, Microsoft 365 Copilot extensions, or custom AI workflows, your main focus must be on selecting rigorous return on investment, or ROI, criteria alongside the total cost of ownership, or TCO. What exactly does this mean? It means looking beyond the initial excitement of AI and capturing real financial impacts, productivity gains, and long-term costs. The basics of this evaluation require a holistic view of the AI lifecycle. Why is this so critical? Industry data shows that AI adoption frequently fails because organizations overestimate the immediate productivity gains while severely underestimating the operational and maintenance costs required to keep the AI running. How do we solve this? By implementing clear measurement frameworks from day one. In our deep dive, we recognize that as solution architects, you must be able to articulate undeniable business value to executive leadership. Without defensible criteria, you risk stalled deployments and the unchecked growth of shadow AI across your enterprise. Let's take a look at the flowchart on your screen, which illustrates the fundamental split in our evaluation strategy. At the top, we start with the AI business solution. To properly evaluate this solution, the diagram branches into two distinct, equally important pathways. On the left, we must measure the benefits, which form our ROI. This includes tangible outcomes like financial impact and productivity gains. On the right side of the diagram, we must measure the costs, which form our TCO. This branch captures both the initial development costs and the ongoing operational overhead. This visual serves as a reminder that an effective AI strategy never looks at benefits in isolation. To build a defensible business case, you must map out and present both sides of this equation to your stakeholders. We will be exploring the specific details of both the left and right branches throughout this training. Moving to slide 2, let's break down the benefit side of our equation by looking at the three categories of AI ROI. What are these categories? According to Microsoft's evaluation frameworks, ROI for AI solutions must be assessed across financial, strategic, or intangible, and time-based indicators. Let's cover the basics. Financial ROI represents hard value. These are quantifiable outcomes such as direct cost savings, reduced labor hours, and increased revenue enablement. Strategic ROI represents soft value, things like improvements in customer satisfaction, employee morale, and workflow consistency. Finally, time-based ROI provides early indicators of value, such as faster workflow execution. Why must we capture all three? Because a balanced ROI model cannot rely solely on immediate cash savings. If you only look at hard dollars, you might miss the massive value of improved customer experiences. How do you track these? You align specific metrics to each category. Diving deeper, while strategic ROI is harder to measure on a balance sheet, it is often the most vital factor for maintaining long-term competitiveness, brand trust, and enterprise compliance. Focus your attention on this horizontal flowchart, which maps out our three ROI categories. Starting on the left, the AI ROI categories node splits into three parallel paths. The top path leads to financial, which maps directly to hard cost savings, the traditional metrics that finance teams love to see. The middle path leads to strategic and intangible, which connects to outcomes like customer satisfaction and overall enterprise quality. The bottom path leads to time-based, connecting to faster workflows and reduced operational bottlenecks. When presenting your business case to leadership, using a visual like this helps broaden their perspective. It visually proves that the return on an AI investment is multidimensional. By highlighting the middle and bottom paths alongside the financial metrics, you build a much stronger, more compelling argument for adopting the AI solution. Now we turn our attention to the cost side of the equation, understanding total cost of ownership, or TCO. What is TCO in the context of AI? It encompasses all costs across the entire AI lifecycle, not just the initial build. The absolute basic rule here is that TCO and ROI answer very different questions. ROI asks, what value are we creating? While TCO asks, what does it truly cost to build and sustain this? Why is this separation so important? If you fail to account for the full TCO, your ROI calculations will artificially inflate the expected benefits. This leads to unexpected budget shortfalls when operational realities hit. When should you do this? TCO must be modeled incredibly early in the planning phase to guarantee financial sustainability. Taking a deep dive into Microsoft's guidance, separating TCO from ROI makes your AI evaluations significantly sharper. It allows you to have transparent conversations with finance teams. When you clearly outline the long-term running costs against the expected gains, your strategy becomes highly defensible and trustworthy. Let's examine this balancing diagram to reinforce the relationship between ROI and TCO. At the top, we have our business case evaluation. This flows into a central balance node, representing the core task of the solution architect. From the balance node, the flow splits evenly. On the left, we have expected benefits/ROI, which leads to value creation. On the right, we have the total cost of ownership, which leads to lifecycle costs. Notice how both value creation and lifecycle costs must eventually converge at the bottom node to create a defensible strategy. This visual perfectly encapsulates our teaching. You cannot have a defensible AI strategy by only looking at the left side. The weight of the lifecycle costs on the right must be actively managed and weighed against the value created to ensure the project doesn't collapse under its own weight once it goes live. To accurately calculate TCO, Microsoft uses a 5-domain cost structure model. On this slide, we will cover the first 2 domains, which focus on the build costs, infrastructure, and development. What do these entail? Infrastructure covers the physical or cloud resources like compute for inference, storage, and networking. Development and integration cover the human effort of designing the agent, building orchestration flows, and connecting APIs. Why are these costs unique? Because AI workloads require specialized, often expensive compute power like GPUs, and the integration involves complex governance engineering that traditional software does not. How do we calculate this? You must forecast costs for inference compute, network egress, and the hours spent on compliance engineering. Let's take a deep dive into infrastructure. You must factor in scaling and resiliency overhead. AI user experience relies heavily on speed. If your infrastructure isn't scaled properly, high latency will destroy user trust, rendering your ROI calculations completely useless. This hierarchical chart breaks down the technical build costs of our TCO model. The primary node, TCO, technical build, branches into our first 2 domains. Follow the left branch to Domain 1, infrastructure. Here, you can see the specific cost drivers you must budget for, compute and storage for inference, and scaling and resiliency. Next, follow the right branch to Domain 2, development and integration. This branch breaks down into agent orchestration design and the engineering effort required for API and system connectors. By presenting these costs visually, you help your stakeholders understand that building an AI agent is not a simple software update. It requires dedicated, specialized architectural planning and significant back-end resources before the agent ever answers its first user prompt. Continuing with our TCO model, we now look at the operational side. What are the final 3 domains? They are data quality and preparation, expertise and staffing, and operations and licensing. The basics here cover the immense cost of cleaning enterprise data, hiring specialized AI or ML engineers, and maintaining ongoing telemetry. Why are these operational costs so critical? Because unlike traditional software, AI models drift and organizational data changes constantly. To maintain the accuracy of your agent, you must continuously tune the system. How do you account for this? Your budget must include line items for data labeling, continuous grounding and indexing refreshes, MLOps staff, and platform subscription fees. In our deep dive, we emphasize that ongoing monitoring for model drift and incident response readiness are often the hidden costs of AI. If you don't budget for a team to monitor the agent's behavior post-launch, your high-performing agent will quickly degrade, completely destroying your long-term ROI. Let's review the flowchart detailing the operational costs of our TCO model. The central TCO, operations and data node splits into 3 critical domains. On the left, Domain 3, data quality, drops down into cleansing and grounding. This represents the constant engineering required to keep your AI's knowledge base accurate. In the middle, Domain 4, expertise and staffing, links to MLOps and change management, reminding us that AI requires specialized human talent to manage the platform and guide user adoption. On the right, Domain 5, operations and licensing, connects to telemetry and retraining. This highlights the recurring software and compute costs needed to monitor the agent and retrain models as business needs evolve. Visually grouping these domains helps teams realize that AI is a living, breathing operational product, not a one-and-done IT project. Now that we understand ROI categories and the 5 domains of TCO, How do we put this into practice? We use a structured 6-step ROI evaluation framework. On this slide, we focus on steps 1 and 2, define business outcomes and identify ROI drivers. What does this mean? It means starting your architecture process by pinpointing exact business problems and mapping them to specific, measurable drivers. Why is this mandatory? Because vague goals like, we want to improve productivity, cannot be measured, and they certainly cannot be justified to a strict finance team. When do you do this? This must occur before you ever decide whether to build a custom model or extend Microsoft 365 Copilot. In our deep dive, your job as an architect is to translate generic leadership goals into precise targets. You need to identify drivers like cost savings, revenue impact, or risk reduction, and set outcomes like reduce call handling time by 20% or automate 40% of manual data entry. Take a look at this sequential process flow. We start on the far left with step 1, define outcomes. Notice how this node pushes directly into highly specific, measurable targets, reduce call time 20%, and automate data entry. This visual enforces the idea that outcomes must be quantifiable. Once those targets are established, the flow converges into step 2, identify drivers. From here, we categorize the business value into distinct buckets, branching out to the productivity driver and the cost savings driver. This diagram is a great template for your own internal workshops. By forcing stakeholders to follow this flow from left to right, you prevent them from requesting AI for the sake of AI and anchor the project firmly in measurable business reality. Moving to the core calculation phases, we have steps 3 and 4, calculate TCO and quantify benefits. What are we doing here? We are taking the theories from the previous slides and turning them into math. The basics involve summing up all costs across the 5 domains of TCO and then measuring the exact time and cost saved by the AI intervention. Why? To establish the financial reality of the project using hard, data-backed evidence rather than assumptions. How do we get this data? Microsoft recommends utilizing tools like Copilot Studio Analytics to see actual agent performance, conducting time and motion studies, and reviewing existing business process KPIs. Let's take a deep dive into quantifying benefits. If you are building an email triage agent, you calculate the value by taking the minutes saved per message, multiplying it by the monthly message volume, and multiplying that by the average labor rate. That formula gives you the gross financial benefit of the AI solution. Let's review this convergence diagram, which illustrates how we build a reliable financial forecast. At the top left, step 3, calculate TCO flows into the mandate to some 5 cost domains. On the right side, step 4, quantify benefits relies on empirical data gathering, branching into Copilot Studio Analytics and time and motion studies. The most important part of this flowchart is the bottom node. Both the complete cost calculations and the empirical benefit measurements flow downwards, combining to form the data-backed forecast. This visual makes it incredibly clear that a true forecast is not a guess. It is the calculated intersection of comprehensive life cycle costs and strictly measured operational savings. We conclude our framework with steps 5 and 6, compare benefits versus TCO and validate with stakeholders. What happens here? You finalize the math and build the business case. The basics involve calculating the net benefit and presenting these findings to leadership. Why do we do this? To determine crucial financial metrics like the payback period and to secure alignment across your cross-functional teams. How is the calculation done? The formula is simple. Net benefit equals your annual benefit minus your annual TCO. You then package this into a concise executive summary slide. Our final deep dive involves advanced forecasting. Because AI is dynamic, you should create sensitivity bands for your ROI. This means calculating an optimistic scenario, an expected scenario, and a conservative scenario based on varying adoption rates. Providing these ranges shows stakeholders both the upside and the risk, which builds immense trust and ensures your AI business case is durable enough to secure funding. Our final diagram shows the culmination of the evaluation process. At the top, step 5, compare benefits versus TCO, drives 2 critical financial outputs, calculate net benefit and calculate payback period. These hard metrics then flow into step 6, validate with stakeholders. This validation node is the ultimate gateway for your project. From here, the flow branches out to require finance and operations sign-off and AI Center of Excellence approval. This flowchart emphasizes that deploying an AI solution is an enterprise-wide decision. By thoroughly evaluating the ROI criteria and total cost of ownership as we've discussed today, You ensure that when you reach this final validation step, your stakeholders will have the data-backed confidence required to approve the deployment.